My name's Alliemarie Humphreys. I'm 24 and
this is Beautiful Bodies of Birmingham.
This is Beautiful Bodies of Birmingham.
Woo!
Okay. So, I was born in Birmingham and I went to a private Catholic school, so it was really small. And so like it was a good life. Like my parents did a lot of things to like provide for me, and they did the best that they could do. And so this is my story, and it's not my job to tell my parents' story, but my interaction with my mom does play a big role in like how everything formed. So in the middle of 4th grade, we moved to Florida because my mom got a job transfer down there, and so we moved down there, and that was my first experience with public school and being in more than a room. Being in a room with more than like the same 10 kids that I like knew, and I knew their families and their families knew us, like vice versa. So it was like a culture shock. And so I went from being in uniforms to like being able to pick out what I wore every day. So I was a tomboy, and so I didn't necessarily wear like the clothes that girls my age were wearing. Like I wore my hair slicked back like a fucking peeled onion, and I had an accent, and I wore Birkenstocks with shorts and t-shirts. Like not exactly Florida girl. Like, and so I did experience a lot of not necessarily hostility, but I wasn't welcomed with open arms, to say the least. And I can remember like some of the older kids in my school like making fun of me, and like that was my first real thing with bullying, and it wasn't the last, because I definitely experienced it with some of the other girls in the neighborhood and like girls at school. Like it was hard, and my mom struggles with her own issues, and her weight is definitely one of them. And so from a very young age, I can remember my mom like obsessing with her weight, and in return my ideas of like what a woman should be, it's gonna be through my mom. And so like a woman should care about her weight, she should care about what she looks like. Therefore, makeup is always a must. Don't go outside the house without makeup on. Not a lot though, because you don't want to look like a whore, but just enough to look like a woman. So like that, on top of like being told by other people that I was too weird or I looked funny. Like I was a fucking know-it-all. Like I know this. Like well aware of it now. Like when I look back on it, I was a know-it-all, and that was like my defense mechanism though, because I was in an environment that was like new to me, and I didn't know how to react to it. But I remember being in 5th grade at a track and field meet, telling a girl that I ran with that like I never wanted to be like more than like 85 pounds, 85, 90 pounds. And like 5th grade, like that being my thought process, it's startling.
Scary.
Like, not normal for a 5th grader to be like, you know, my weight defines me, and I'm gonna like die if I get anything heavier than that. And of course that wasn't reality, because middle school came and my body changed and puberty happened, and I'm definitely not 90 pounds anymore, so that didn't really work out very well for me. And so I got to middle school, and that's where a lot of things changed. Like I started really noticing that I was different, and like it wasn't until later on in life that I realized like what that difference was. But the leading up process to it was hard, because I had all these feelings, and I realized that I was like attracted to like more than just men, and so that was hard alone. Struggling with my body issues, like am I pretty enough, am I tan enough, are my teeth white enough, like are my legs shaved, like do I fit the quota for what's gonna like get people to like me. And granted, I didn't like portray that all the time like to other people, but like those were the things I felt inside. Like I wanted to be that gothic girl in middle school. Like that was my thing. I was into sci-fi, so I was automatically like a little squirrely in my sense of style. Like I thought I could go into middle school dressing like Buffy Summers off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like like 10-year-olds don't dress like 18-year-olds in leather skirts. Like, but that was like my mentality. I thought that that was like a real thing, that I was going to go to middle school dressing like Buffy Summers, and that was not the case. I wore Bermuda shorts and t-shirts and still dressed like a tomboy. Every so often I'd wear my hair down, and it wasn't until I had like my first like real crush on a boy that I started to pay attention to the way that I wore certain things. Like I didn't have like breasts, like I've been flat chested my whole life, but I remember like wearing bras and like actively picking out shirts that like would show cleavage. Like I don't have cleavage to show, like it's just my chest, bare flat chest. And so like that being like actions that I would like, that slow development. And I think that's just like growing up. And you start to realize that like boys react to your body, girls react to your body. And so like that was all going on, and then I really, my disease of addiction and alcoholism, that's when it like started to form. That was when I had access to the internet at a very young age, so lots of research. I spent a lot of time alone, so you read a lot. And I started to dabble in drugs by like looking into what my parents' cabinets had, and like.
How old were you?
It's like 6th, 7th grade.
Wow.
As early as like 5th grade kind of thing.
So your disordered image, like the body image problems, when did those start?
Say like 4th or 5th grade.
And then it escalated into...
Yeah. Then I started realizing that like I really am different and I don't have friends. Like I was very depressed as a small child. Like in middle school and stuff. Like it was hard.
Yeah.
And like a lot of realizations came, and like I came out to like my friends in 8th grade, and that just blew up. But like came out to my parents, and I was rejected during that. And that one situation in hand where my parents were responding as parents should respond, but I felt nothing but rejection out of that. Like all I took from that situation was nobody's gonna ever love me, care for me on a level that I want them to. And that shaped entirely my entire life up like until now. And so middle school finished, my eating disorder was at the level of like I was meeting other girls with eating disorders, and so like I was feeding off of them. And there was a summer where into high school, I believe, yeah, it was the summer into high school where I would only let myself eat maybe 200 calories a day. So instead of eating, I would just chew packs of gum, because pieces of gum are like 5 calories a piece. So I'm like, if I can permit myself to eat these 2 packs of gum during the day and then maybe have like a sandwich or something later, and then that's all I'm allowed to eat, but I'm still going to work out on top of that because I've always been athletic. And so that was my body type for a while. Like I was playing volleyball and trying out for like high school teams, so I was active and then only eating like these minimum calories, surrounded by other girls who were equally as sick when it came to their body weight, that it just kind of took shape. Like that helped me get to that level in high school where I met drugs and I met boys, and it became this whole thing where my life strived. Like I strived to make good grades, because if I made good grades, no one would notice anything else. And if I was tan and I had white teeth and my hair always looked good and I was always present, no one could ask questions or question whether or not I was a good person. And so
that's a lot.
Yeah, it just became,
Ugh.
It was a very big mask, and it changed according to the people and who I was around and what I was doing and what I needed to accomplish at the moment. But it didn't change the fact that like on the inside I was slowly deteriorating on a level that like it took a very it was a long time before I could get to a place where I was like, it's not my fault. Like it's okay to feel these things. And
yeah.
So like throughout high school, I dated a guy that was older than I was, so I experienced a lot of things very quickly. Like I grew up very fast, and like that was a conversation my mom and I had a lot, was I grew up fast. Like being in high school and dating a guy in college, you grow up even faster. And so by the time I got to like my junior year of high school, I felt like I was a fucking junior in college. Like I was over it, everything sucked, I hated everyone, I didn't really have friends. And like that was also the same time where I was going to the gym for like 6 hours every day. And
oh my
like,
God.
Eating lunch by myself, eating my lunch on the way to class, in class, so I wouldn't have to face the fact that I was probably going to eat lunch by myself. Or like just having to face that anxiety. My anxiety around people was so bad, and like I wasn't eating. There was like one semester where I ate like an apple for lunch every day. And then that would be it. Like for that time period. Like I'd maybe have like half a sandwich and that was it. And that became normal though, because it wasn't really questioned. And even if someone did question it, I probably wasn't paying attention to them anyway, because I was so self-consumed in my own thoughts and emotions that like I honestly probably didn't think I had time to care about what you thought, even though that's all I thought about was what you thought about me. Like I remember the first time I overdosed, it got all over my school, and I remember going back to school that Monday after spring break after it happened, and people just looking at me and being so embarrassed by it, like on a level where I was just like, all these people know my shit and this is fucking awful. Like, and people were talking to me and asking me if I was okay, and I was like, what do you mean am I okay? Like, I'm fine. Like, nothing fucking happened. And meanwhile, like, I'm 15 years old and I overdosed at a fucking party. Like, and went crazy and my heart stopped. Like, all, like, that to me was, like, not that big of a deal. The fact that people knew about it was a big of a deal. And I tried, whether I was successful or not, like, I tried really hard not to let people ever find out about that kind of stuff again.
Yeah.
And I kept it a lot of secret. And, it just progressively, like, addiction progresses and my eating disorder progressed on a level that was just, like, stupid. Like, looking at pictures for this project, like, trying to find pictures and seeing some of the images, I was just like, I was so tiny. But in my head, I was disgusting.
Yeah, and you felt like you just were huge, you know, which isn't a bad thing either, but in our society and in your mind, we've been conditioned to know that being bigger is bad. Yeah. So where do you feel like you hit a breaking point with, you know, your addiction and your eating disorder? Did you heal from one first to maybe start working on the other, or kind of what's your timeline with?
So it wasn't until I got into college and, like, by that point I was just, like, mentally fucked. Like, there was no positivity radiating out of me. No positive thoughts about my body, anything. Like, and so, like, when I got to college, everything just kind of took, like, a side to it. Like, my eating disorder, it was there, but I never really acknowledged it, because it was just, like, I just have to stay tiny. Boys in college, men in college are not going to pay me any time if I'm not in shape. And I was, like, surrounded by, like, beautiful women, like, in school, and I just saw all these girls, and I was like, I will never look like this. I'm never going to be loved by anybody. Because there were a lot of instances where I got hazed, and I'd have guys who would tell me, they'd be like, you are ugly. And it's just, like, impressionable freshmen, like, hearing those things that I've heard so much before in my life, it's hard not to believe it. Like,
wait, do you mean, like, hazing for a sorority, or just, like...
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I was at a swap, and a dude told me I looked like Woody Allen. Like... like, still to this day, I'm like, I want to find that dude and be like, what the fuck, dude?
That is insane.
I was very aware that, like, sex could get me what I wanted it to get me, and that played a really big role in both my addiction and my eating disorder. Like, I wasn't having sex because it was fun or recreational. It was a transaction. It got me from point A to point B, and it got me what I wanted when I needed it, and that was it. And, like, still to this day, I struggle with that. With my, like, relationships, like when I'm dating or anything like that. And that's something I'll work on, and it's a work in progress. And like, it wasn't until I hit my rock bottom my junior year of college where I kind of just came face forward with a lot of things, like all of this shit that I had been, like, bottling inside, like my insecurities, my eating disorder, the addiction, the alcoholism, everything. Like, I finally went to treatment. I went to intensive outpatient at Bradford while in school, and it was, I remember sitting in one of the, like, groups things, and it was, like, the first time that I felt myself, I was okay with my body shape. I was like, I'm okay. Like, it's cool that I weigh this much. Like, food does not define me. My weight does not define me. The number on the scale is not going to define me. Neither today or tomorrow or the next day or anything like that. And it's okay. And that was, like, the first time ever that I felt at peace with my body size.
Wow.
That was before, like, I had even, like, got into like any of the other shit, like the addiction, the drugs, the sex problems, like any of that other stuff. But like being able to like feel that was amazing, because it really, I really truly feel that that is what helped me get to where I am in my program now. Because if I was trying to deal with that acceptance of my body at this point in recovery, I feel like it would be really difficult to stay away from drugs.
Yeah.
Because that was, I did so many drugs because I knew that was what was going to keep me tiny.
Wow.
Like I never ate when I did drugs or drank, because why would you do that? It's a waste of money. Like I can put more money into these things, or I can get more fucked up if I just don't eat. So like I got to this place where it was like, okay, like I accepted that food was going to be a challenge, but it wasn't like my ultimate like problem, because my ultimate problem are drugs and alcohol. So food, I have to have food to eat, and I know it'll eventually come, but like I didn't look at food in fear, and it got to it was nice, because it was, I could wake up in the morning and not entirely hate myself as much as I normally did. Like I was without a car that summer because I had wrecked it. And so I was on a bike everywhere, and I was in this organic farming class, like really delving into my organic farming minor. And I was able to get in touch with like food on a level where I could enjoy it and appreciate it. And that really, that still plays a role in the way that I look at food now. And so I go through treatment, I relapse twice. And first time was a gradual thing where it was like one drink, and then it ended up being like 24 drinks later. And I got back into the program, and then got a sponsor who ultimately like changed my life. Like she is a woman who, she really helped me see things for the way that they were, and I needed that. And I'm grateful for those months with her, because I ended up going back out. Like I smoked. And then I ended up calling her while I was still high and being like, I smoked weed. And she'd be like, well, I'll see you in the meeting tomorrow. And then that was that. Like,
yeah.
And from that point on, it propelled forward, and I became more conscious of like myself and how I interacted with food, and got really honest with the fact that like I'm doing things to help me with my addiction to drugs and alcohol, but like the food, like I need to be conscious with it and stuff.
Yeah.
And so,
so they were like hand in hand with each other.
yeah, it just kind of like, I had to look at them the same way. I had to see them as both as like, they can control me to a level where I destroy myself, but I can't let them do that, because it's like, I can acknowledge that it's there, be like, okay, so I have this eating disorder, or I feel this way towards food, or I feel this way right now that makes me want to do X, Y, and Z. It's there. Hello, how are you doing? Okay. That's it. I don't have to step forward to it, and I don't have to run away from it. I just have to be present with it.
Yeah.
And it's...
Is this before Bradford?
This is after Bradford.
So that's, wow. And that was like when you finally had that realization, you're like, okay.
Yeah. Like that came, like, it came over time. Like it definitely took like a year and a half in the program. Like up until this point now where I'm like becoming okay more so with it. Like I had in my mind that I had to be like this juicing yogi, like backpacking, like crazy person. Like I had to be a certain shape to be a hiker, or I had to be like a juicer to do yoga. Like I couldn't do one without the other, and I had to do it. But that's unrealistic, because that's me comparing myself to other women who are wonderful in what they do and live these beautiful, healthy lives. But it's unrealistic for me to set myself in comparison to like a 6'2" blonde model who has a personal trainer and all these other like assets, and then making myself fit that mold when it's like, it's unrealistic for me.
So why do you think you like decided to do Beautiful Bodies? Like what are you getting out of it? Why is this something that you felt like you needed to do?
Well, first off, it's awesome. I love organic group projects in general. Like my like passion is nonprofit, so anything nonprofit, I'm automatically like, fuck yeah. And but really, because like it's something that it took me being in recovery for almost 2 years and like going through fucking hell and back for me to even find girls that I can remotely talk about these things with. Like my best friend and I, she's the first person I could get real with about laxatives and how they played a role in my life, and they still play a role. and the way I view things. Like, and I think it's important that if you don't have knowledge or you don't have some type of thing to hang on to, like, no one's gonna want to talk about it. And I think eating disorders, body image, like, even if you don't have an eating disorder, but you still look at yourself with like a sadness because you're depressed, or you have anxiety, or you're schizophrenic, bipolar, whatever the fuck it might be. A mental illness is a mental illness. And just because you fall in the gray area of it doesn't change that it's not there. Like, it's real. And it's real as fuck for people on a daily basis. And it's real for me every day. And it's real for the next girl or the next guy. And I just hope that whatever comes of it, that like my participation helps at least one person, because that's my ultimate goal in life, is to reach that one person. And whether they're in the program or they're not in the program, or they even like take this as like a positive thing, like, it plants a seed, and it'll eventually grow when it's ready to grow. And I think that is like what makes the project so amazing, is that some girls might not say anything for a very long time, but they might get to a point in their breaking point, their bottom, and they can remember the things that they've seen and not feel so alone anymore. Because I know that's like, not feeling alone in this battle of life has made such a big difference in the way that I handle things and the way that like I wake up.
Yeah. So where do you feel like you're at now?
I'd like to say that I'm in a really good place, like a stellar place. Like, I'm doing the best I can do on a daily basis, and like, I'll be sober hopefully for 2 years come April. I'm doing the steps that I need to do. I go to therapy. I I take care of my body. I'm just like, I'm let myself feel my emotions today. And so I'm pretty vulnerable most days. But like, that's better than not being vulnerable, because there was a time and place where I didn't feel anything but hate. And hate from myself mainly. So to be able to feel emotions and feel happiness and sadness and rejection and like, feel what it's like for the fact that like when I eat dairy it hurts. Like, as stupid as those things are, like I can feel those things and then like accept it. I might not accept it right then and there. Most days I do not accept shit right then and there, but I do some days, and then other days it takes a few hours. But it's all a growing process for me on this level that I could never even dream being possible before, for a really long time actually. And so it's just nice, like, to wake up and look at myself in the mirror and not be like, ew. Like, I ran a half marathon and I only thought about my weight and how I looked in my outfit once. And that was because I was surrounded by pictures. Like, those things that force me to like just fucking accept shit. And it's nice. And I just hope others can get to that place too, because it's nice. Like, really fucking nice. It's not like that every day, but the days that it is, it's really fucking nice. So.